My husband forgot our anniversary. That's when I realized he wasn't actually my husband. I always thought the scariest part about marriage would be infidelity. Or money problems. Or maybe growing apart. I never thought it would be waking up one day and realizing the man I shared a bed with wasn't really the person I thought I knew. It started small. Our 10th anniversary was coming up, and I had been planning for weeks. Nothing big, just dinner reservations at the little Italian place where we had our first date, and a framed photo album of our years together. I even bought a new dress, the kind he always said he liked, red, simple, fitted. That morning, I woke up buzzing with anticipation. I leaned over, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Happy anniversary." He blinked at me, confused. "Anniversary?" I laughed, thinking he was teasing. "Don't tell me you forgot." His face stayed blank. "What anniversary?" My stomach dropped. "Our wedding anniversary, David. 10 years today." For a moment, something flickered across his face. Panic, maybe, but it was gone so fast I almost doubted I'd seen it. Then he forced a smile and said, "Of course. I was just kidding." But the tone was wrong. Forced. Still, I brushed it off. People forget things. He'd been working long hours. Stress could do that. Except it wasn't just the anniversary. That night at dinner, he ordered chicken parm. Always before, he'd ordered lasagna. It was his thing. He claimed no restaurant could beat his mother's lasagna, but he ordered it anyway just to compare. Now he was suddenly acting like he'd never cared for it. Then, when the waiter asked about dessert, I mentioned tiramisu, and he frowned. I don't like coffee desserts. But he did. He always had. I had 100 memories of him stealing bites of my tiramisu, saying, "Okay, maybe I like it when you order it." The next morning, he called me Melissa. My name isn't Melissa. I laughed it off as a slip of the tongue, but when I asked who Melissa was, he froze. His fork covered in the air, his eyes darted like a cornered animal, and then he muttered, "Just a coworker." You know how it is, names get mixed up. But I didn't know. Not like that. The cracks widened. He didn't hum when he brushed his teeth anymore. He didn't leave his shoes by the door like he always had. He didn't know the code for the garage, the one he'd set himself. One night, I tested him. I brought up the story of how he proposed, in the rain under that broken streetlight. He smiled politely, but his version of the story didn't match. He said it was at a park. Sunny day. Picnic blanket. I stared at him, heart pounding. That wasn't a detail you just forgot. That was the moment I realized something was wrong. Very, very wrong. This wasn't about a forgotten anniversary. This wasn't about stress or distraction. The man sitting across from me, wearing my husband's face, wasn't actually my husband. At first, I thought maybe he was having some kind of breakdown. Memory loss. Early dementia. Something medical. I wanted to believe that, because it was better than the alternative, that I had no idea who this man really was. But then I found the phone. It was tucked under the seat of his car. Not his regular phone, the one we both knew the password to. This one was cheap, prepaid. The kind people use when they don't want to be found. And it was full of messages. Not to Melissa. To multiple women. Different names. Different numbers. And every one of them calling him by a different name. Eric. Mark. Tom. Not once did they call him David. My blood went cold. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I played along. I cooked dinner. I smiled when he came home from work. I kissed him goodnight. But every touch made my skin crawl. Every smile felt like a lie. I started digging. I pulled out our marriage license. His driver's license. Old tax documents. Everything checked out, at least on paper. But when I called the HR department at the company where he supposedly worked, they told me they had no employee by that name. I tried calling his mom. The number he had saved for her went straight to voicemail. A generic, robotic voice, not a person. 10 years. 10 years I thought I was married to this man. 10 years of holidays, vacations, bills, laughter, fights, all of it. And now I was staring at the pieces, realizing none of it fit together. The scariest part wasn't the lies. It wasn't the secret phone or the women or the false stories. It was how calm he was. He never slipped. Never panicked. Never acted like he was hiding something. He looked at me with my husband's eyes, touched me with my husband's hands, spoke with my husband's voice. And every second of it was a mask. I don't know who this man really is. But I do know one thing. The real David, the man I married 10 years ago, doesn't exist. After I found the burner phone, I couldn't unsee it. Every conversation, every glance, every late-night work email looked different now. He wasn't my husband. He was someone wearing my husband's life like a costume. And I needed to know who. The first thing I did was make copies. I photographed every message, every contact, every call log from the burner phone before sliding it carefully back into his car. If he realized it was missing, he'd know I was onto him. Then I dug through our files. I had always trusted him to handle most of the paperwork, bills, insurance, taxes. That trust now felt like a noose tightening around my neck. Our marriage license looked real enough. His social security number matched his driver's license. But when I tried to pull his birth certificate online through the state database, the page returned an error, record not found. That was impossible. Everyone has a record. Everyone. I went further back. I pulled out our old wedding album. I hadn't looked at it in years. At first, everything seemed normal. The ceremony, the reception, friends and family smiling in awkward candid shots. But then I noticed something odd. In every photo of him with his family, no one touched him. Not one hug, not one arm around the shoulder. His mother stood stiffly beside him in her floral dress. His brother kept his distance. And in one group shot, I caught it, his mother's expression. She was looking at him the way I was starting to, like she didn't quite know him. That night, while he showered, I opened his wallet. Inside were the usual items, credit cards, ID, gym membership. But tucked behind them, folded so many times it was soft at the edges, was a slip of paper. A name. Eric Palmer. An address 2 towns over. My heart hammered. The next morning, I drove to the address. It was a small, shabby house with peeling paint and a rusted mailbox. For 10 minutes, I just sat in the car, debating. Then I got out and knocked. A woman answered. Mid-40s, tired eyes. Hi, I stammered. I'm sorry to bother you. Doesn't Eric Palmer live here? The woman's face drained of color. Her hand gripped the edge of the door so tightly her knuckles whitened. Who are you? She demanded. My voice shook. I think I might be his wife. She stared at me. Then, slowly, she said, no. You're not. And she slammed the door. I stood there, stunned, until I heard voices inside. A man's, low and tense. Then the sound of hurried footsteps toward the back of the house. Panic spiked through me. I ran back to my car and drove off, my hands trembling on the wheel. If Eric was my husband, then who the hell was David? That night, I confronted him. I didn't mean to. I had planned to keep pretending, to gather more evidence first. But when he walked in the door, kissed my cheek, and said, "How was your day?" like everything was normal, I snapped. Who's Eric Palmer? For the first time, his mask cracked. It was quick, just a flicker in his eyes, a sharp inhale, but it was enough. I don't know who that is, he said smoothly. Yes, you do. I went to the house. I talked to the women there. She knew you. My voice broke. She said I wasn't your wife. His expression went cold. Not angry. Not scared. Just empty. You shouldn't have done that, he said quietly. My stomach turned to ice. He didn't yell. He didn't deny. He just shut down. He ate dinner in silence, washed the dishes, and went to bed early, leaving me alone at the table with my thoughts spiraling. I barely slept. Every creak in the house felt like a threat. I half expected him to vanish in the night, or worse, make me vanish. The next day, while he was at work, I called in reinforcements. My best friend, Hannah, had always been skeptical of him. She said he was too polished, too careful. I told her everything, from the burner phone to the birth certificate to the name Eric Palmer. She didn't laugh. She didn't say I was paranoid. She just said, "We're going to figure this out." Together, we dug deeper. Hannah's cousin worked in law enforcement and had access to certain databases. She couldn't legally give us details, but she could confirm one thing: Eric Palmer had a record. Fraud. Identity theft. Grand larceny. And then the kicker, he had gone missing about 12 years ago. Right around the time I met David. I felt sick. Had he stolen David's identity? Was there even a David at all? I called the HR department again, pressing harder. This time, I asked for a verification letter in writing. The reply came back the next day: no employment record, no payroll history, nothing. He wasn't just lying to me. He was lying to everyone. That night, I pretended to be asleep when he came home. I listened as he walked through the house, each footstep deliberate, heavy. He paused outside the bedroom door for too long before finally slipping in beside me. I kept my breathing steady, my heart hammering. And that was when I made my decision. I couldn't live like this. Not another day. I was going to the police. Even if I didn't know the full truth yet, I had enough. Enough to prove my husband wasn't who he said he was. Enough to get out before it was too late. Because if there was one thing I had learned in the past few weeks, it was this: the man I married wasn't my husband. He was a stranger. And I was sleeping beside him. The morning I walked into the police station, I felt like I was walking on glass. Every step could cut me open. I handed over the photos of the burner phone, the text logs, the copy of the marriage license, and told the officer at the desk that I didn't think my husband was who he claimed to be. Saying the words out loud made my mouth go dry. The officer listened, flipping through the pages. When I mentioned the name Eric Palmer, his eyes sharpened. He excused himself and disappeared into the back. 10 minutes later, 2 detectives came out. They asked me to sit down. Their questions were calm, methodical. How long had I been married? How did we meet? When did I first suspect something was wrong? Finally, one of them leaned forward and said, "You need to understand something. If your husband is Eric Palmer, he's wanted in 3 states. Fraud. Identity theft. There's an open warrant. And we believe he's been assuming multiple identities for years." The room spun. I had slept next to him for a decade. Shared my life, my secrets, my body with him. And he was nothing but a con. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed with Hannah. We sat on her couch, wine glasses in hand, while I tried to make sense of the last 10 years of my life. "You have to leave him," Hannah said firmly. "File for divorce. Cut every tie." I knew she was right. But the thought of facing him, of telling him I knew everything, it made my stomach knot. The next day, I called a divorce attorney. I expected shock, maybe pity. Instead, she nodded like she'd heard it all before. If he's not who he says he is, that's grounds for annulment as well as divorce. But if he's wanted, the state might get involved. You'll need to be careful. Men like that don't take kindly to being exposed. Her words stayed with me. Men like that. I filed the paperwork in secret. The attorney helped me put a freeze on our joint accounts, rerouted my paychecks to a new bank, and started digging into the house deed. That was when I got my next gut punch. The house wasn't in both our names like I thought. It was only in his. Which meant he could sell it, mortgage it, destroy it, and I'd have no say. It wasn't just that he'd stolen my husband's name. He'd stolen my life piece by piece while I smiled and held his hand. I thought I had time. That I could get my ducks in a row, serve him papers, and walk away. But he found out first. I came home one evening to find him sitting at the kitchen table, the burner phone in front of him. My heart stopped. "You've been snooping," he said quietly. Not angry. Just flat. I forced myself to stay calm. I had to know the truth. He tilted his head, studying me like I was an insect under glass. "And what truth did you find?" "That you're not David. That you've been lying since the day we met. That I don't even know who you are." Silence stretched between us. Finally, he smiled. A slow, thin smile that never touched his eyes. "You know enough," he said. "But you don't know everything." I wanted to ask what he meant. But I didn't. I picked up my bag, turned, and walked out the door. I didn't go back. The divorce was ugly. He didn't contest it outright, he couldn't, not with the police circling him, but he dragged his feet on every document, every hearing. He played the victim in court, painting me as paranoid, unstable, ungrateful. But the evidence spoke louder. The burner phone, the fake employment, the aliases. The detectives even showed up at one hearing with proof of his fraud cases. In the end, the judge granted the divorce. Clean break. I lost the house, the savings, 10 years of my life. But I got out alive. Sometimes, people ask me if I regret it, if I regret marrying him, loving him, wasting all that time. The truth? Yes. And no. Yes, because I gave a decade of myself to a man who never existed. No, because I learned it's something I never would have otherwise, how easy it is for someone to slip into your life, to wear your trust like a second skin, and hollow you out from the inside. I live in a small apartment now. I keep my doors locked and my passwords private. And every year, when my anniversary rolls around, I remind myself that day doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to a version of me who didn't know better. The new me, she celebrates something different. The day she walked out the door. The day she divorced a ghost. Update: Hi everyone. A few months ago, I posted about how my husband forgot our anniversary, which spiraled into me realizing he wasn't really my husband at all. I promised I'd update once things settled, and now that the dust has cleared, I can finally breathe enough to share. The divorce went through. It wasn't quick, and it wasn't painless, but it's done. He dragged his feet at every step, trying to stall, trying to intimidate me into backing off. But with the help of my attorney, and honestly, the police, the judge signed it final. He tried to play the devoted husband card in court, saying I was paranoid, unstable, even that I'd fabricated things. But the evidence was too strong. The burner phone, the fake job, the aliases. The detectives came in with their own file too, and that sealed it. Here's the part I haven't said yet: he was Eric Palmer. Or at least, that's one of his names. He had outstanding warrants in 2 states for fraud and identity theft. He'd been living under multiple identities for over a decade. When I met David, I was meeting a mask. The real David. He never existed. It wasn't like my ex killed him or anything, thank God. He just invented him. He built a life on paperwork and lies. And I was the unlucky one who fell in love with it. The police took him in after one of the hearings. I don't know if it was timing or pressure from his warrants finally catching up, but they cuffed him right outside the courthouse. I won't lie, watching that happen gave me a twisted sense of relief. He's sitting in jail now, waiting for trial. I don't know how long he'll get, but honestly, I don't care. That's not my life anymore. As for me, I moved out of the house. I lost it in the divorce, which stung, but it was his name on the deed. At first, I was devastated. I thought I was losing everything. But now, I see it differently. That house was built on lies. Every corner of it held memories that weren't real. Leaving it behind was like ripping off a rotten bandage. I have a little apartment now. It's not much, but it's mine. The lease is in my name. The locks are set by me. The money that pays the rent comes from my account. And every night when I lock the door, I remind myself, I am safe. The hardest part hasn't been the paperwork or the financial fallout. It's been the betrayal. 10 years. 10 years of laughter, fights, vacations, birthdays. 10 years of what I thought was love. None of it was real. That's what I'm on. Not him, but the life I thought I had. I've been in therapy since all of this started, and my therapist keeps reminding me, the marriage may have been fake, but your love was real. You were real. That doesn't make you weak, it makes him a predator. And she's right. I was tricked. But I'm not broken. So here's the final update, I'm free. Divorced. Safe. Healing. It's strange, but I don't hate him anymore. I don't even think about him as a person, just a mask, an empty shell that I filled in with the man I wanted him to be. I know now that I'll never get closure from him. The closure comes from me, from walking away, from choosing to build something new instead of living in a lie. To anyone reading this who has that little nagging voice in their gut telling them something is wrong, listen to it. Don't let someone gaslight you into doubting your reality. If something feels off, it probably is. I ignored the little signs for years because I loved him. Because I trusted him. Because I wanted my marriage to be what I thought it was. But ignoring the cracks doesn't stop the house from falling apart. So I walked away. And now, finally, I can say this, it's over. I'm free.